The thing with the inhumane smile picked up the revolver from the dead man's hand. In a flash, tendrils of black smoke enveloped the corpse and yanked it back into the darkness. The thing clapped softly with its gloved hands, congratulating those of us still left. Reaching into its pocket, it pulled out another bullet and loaded it into the chamber. He then held it out to the woman. She hesitated a bit this time, took the gun, and held it in her hand, against her head. She closed her eyes, her body rigid with fear and anticipation. She pulled the trigger. Click. I could see the tension leave her body as she lowered the gun and offered it to me. I took it, my hands coated in sweat. I closed my eye, my heart throbbing in my chest, and I held the gun in my head, against my head. Click. And relief washed over me, and I couldn't help but sigh deeply as I lowered the gun, offered to the man with no nose. I nodded reassuringly to him. He was visibly shaken now, and I could see that some blood had splattered onto his left hand. He took it, nearly dropping it from his fear. He swallowed a visible lump in his throat, then held it against his head, his temple. Bang! His body launched to the side and out of the chair he was in. The tendrils reached out and snatched him before he even hit the ground. The thing knelt down and swept up the gun from the floor. It smiled at us with those fake frozen teeth and loaded another bullet into the gun. He handed it to the woman, much less gently, and stepped back to watch. She held it in her hands, running a thumb over the barrel as she thought. She glanced up at me, and I could see tears in her eyes. But they weren't tears of fear. It was as if she was relieved that this was happening. She reached over, placed a hand on my shoulder, giving me a reassuring squeeze. She let out a deep sigh, held the gun to her head, and click. I reached out to accept the gun, but she shook her head. She pushed my hand away and pulled the trigger again. Click. Panic settled in my stomach as I realized what she was doing. I glanced at the thing in the top hat to see if it would stop her. Instead, it watched with its head tilted curiously. Once again, the woman held the gun against her head and pulled the trigger. Click. She started to laugh and the tears streamed down her cheeks. She looked at me with wild eyes, held the gun up to her head, and pulled the trigger. Bang! A look of shock appeared briefly on her face as blood spurted from the side of her head. I blinked as it splattered onto my face, landing on my cheeks and lips. Her body seemed to fall in slow motion, those eyes still locked onto me. They looked so much like hers, and I had flashbacks to those last moments with her. And she was gone. Her body being sucked away into darkness, I sat in stunned silence, her blood slowly running down my face. The thing took the gun and stowed it away in its coat pocket. It clapped excitedly for me, and that smile taunted my very soul. It reached into its other pocket and presented me with a white key. I took it, held it in the palm of my hand. The words, "Step 4, complete," seemed to scream at me as I read them. I heard the sound of creaking metal and looked up to see the door opening. I could see streetlights beyond and the silhouettes of people walking past. Little did they know of the events that had unfolded just a couple of feet away. I wiped the blood off my face the best I could and stored the white key in my pocket. I'm not sure what the woman had been trying to do. Kill herself? Use as many empty chambers as she dared, so I was sure to get the bullet? I would never know for sure. She was dead, and I wasn't. I was so close to achieving my goal, and I'll be damned if I would be killed now. I'll do whatever it takes to bring her back, no matter the cost.